And one cannot celebrate the fact that BJP's victory uh, would mean one step forward in its quest for total dominance. Uh, Finishing every possible voice of dissent and opposition. How can one celebrate these things? In Haryana, it was the defeat of Congress. In Maharashtra, the defeat of combined opposition. And in Delhi, mainly the defeat of the Aam Aadmi Party. But it is a defeat for anti-BJP politics. Aam Aadmi Party has been an irritant for Mr. Modi. वो हिंदी में कहते हैं आंख की किरकिरी. आंख में कोई छोटी सी चीज फंस जाती है and it troubles you. It's a tiny thing, but it troubles you no end. Aam Aadmi Party has been that for Mr. Modi. It is not yet an existential crisis, but it could turn into one for Aam Aadmi Party.
Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Deshkaal with Yogendra Yadav. My name is Pooja Pillai. Yogendra ji, welcome back. Much has happened since we last spoke. But the big news remains what happened on Saturday, which is the victory of the BJP in the Delhi elections and the drubbing of the AAP. And you've written about, in fact, in your latest column for us, that you don't want to celebrate this, even though you believe that AAP deserve this drubbing. But what I want to begin with is something that you say towards the end of your article, which is that you worry about these results because you feel a door might be shut for alternative politics. Could you expand a little on this? Like, what are the implications for alternative politics in your view now?
That's right, Pooja. I have noticed that after the Delhi election results, which I spoke to your colleague Akash about just on the evening of the results, I noticed that there was a lot of celebration for various reasons. Many people from the anti-BJP camp felt very elated. Many of my own colleagues, I must confess, because we were once in Aam Aadmi Party, and naturally, it's just so human that we think about these things, and there's this sense of vicarious pleasure. I told you so. Look, it's vindication. There was that sense, and then among those who were never with Aam Aadmi Party, who probably thought it was an error to begin with, uh, and who are anti-BJP. In that section too, I noticed a sense of celebration, and I felt that in both cases it was rather misplaced for all the problems that I list in the article. I'm not a fan of Aam Aadmi Party and its leadership. I am not a believer in its so-called Delhi model. And I cannot possibly overlook Aam Aadmi Party's rather disgraceful role during the communal situation in Delhi. In spite of all this, you can't possibly celebrate. I worry. I worry because for all its problems, Aam Aadmi Party did ensure that it brought attention to the Aam Aadmi of Delhi, Aam Aadmi and Aam Aurat, I should have said. It brought them to the center of attention. It legitimized their needs, those who live in unauthorized colonies. Because, majority of Delhi, it will be a surprise for most of your viewers, that 70% of Delhi lives in unauthorized colonies. So those who were living beyond the pale of law, as it were, whose existence was deemed unauthorized, they were legitimized. And as the survey published in Indian Express brings out, the Lokneti CSDS survey brings out, that it still continues to get majority, dominant support from the poor, from the marginalized, from Dalits, and among women. So and so that's why I felt that one should be that one should be cautious before one begins to celebrate this, because my worry is that this marginalized Delhi could be further pushed to invisibilization. The PM has already announced that he's going to build a world-class capital. And we know what this world-class capital could be. We could see a glimpse of that in Ahmedabad, the riverfront of Ahmedabad. If anyone has interest, you can just Google and find out all the controversies associated with that. So we could begin to see these things. There's so much of talk about the middle class for the last 10 days. I must have said it earlier, but I cannot stop myself from repeating that this middle class is a euphemism for the ruling class. It's the tiny top 25% who hog everything. And my fear, the reason I worry, first of all, is that it could be rule of this so-called middle class. And once again, the underclass of Delhi, the working class, those who really build the city, this would be invisibilized. I also worry because, as you mentioned, uh, any possibility of alternative politics would just bring a smirk now. Aha, oh, you want to do honest politics? Ah, we've heard that before. There's that sort of sense. And these are not good signs. These are not things that one can possibly celebrate. And one cannot celebrate the fact that BJP's victory uh, would mean one step forward in its quest for total dominance, finishing every possible voice of dissent and opposition. How can one celebrate these things?
So you say that you did say that the door is shutting for alternative politics. You fear. What does this mean for opposition, for the opposition though now? Like Haryana completely taken by surprise, Maharashtra taken by surprise, in fact, by the scale of the victory. Many observers also were. Now Delhi. What do you see happening in the opposition space, especially since a different way of doing politics is closing? Do you think it will move closer to the BJP way of doing politics? What do you think will happen here?
Pooja, I make a distinction between alternative politics and political alternatives. Alternative politics is about saying we would do, is about idealism, is about
Mhm.
ideology, is about doing politics in a way which is different from the ruling and the opposition.
Correct.
Uh, and political alternatives are the ones that we are currently talking about, Congress versus BJP or
Yeah.
BJP versus Aam Aadmi Party. These are political alternatives. So while I think the doors for alternative politics may have been shut for some time,
Mhm.
the game of political alternatives is still open.
Mhm.
Uh, Aam Aadmi Party's defeat is a setback for that as well, though the doors are not closed. You're absolutely right that these three defeats for the opposition, parties could be different. In Haryana, it was the defeat of Congress. In Maharashtra, the defeat of combined opposition. And in Delhi, mainly the defeat of the Aam Aadmi Party. But it is a defeat for anti-BJP politics. After the setback in the Lok Sabha election, BJP has come back in a way which is very innovative. It has learned. BJP has used things which are illegitimate as well. I've written about it and I keep talking about it. At the same time, BJP has also revamped the way it contests elections. BJP's victory in Haryana and Maharashtra, I looked closely at that, and I'm convinced that BJP has scaled up its model, both the legitimate and the illegitimate, both parts of it. But it has scaled up. So BJP has learned something from its defeat, its setback in 2024. The opposition doesn't seem to have learned that much, and that worries me. Uh, although the defeat of Aam Aadmi Party in Delhi did not come as that kind of a shock, because mentally you were prepared. Many of the Indian Express reports that I read, many of the other media reports that I read, kind of gave you a sense of that this could happen. No one forecast it exactly, but there was a sense. So you were not entirely shocked when you heard that. But Haryana and and Maharashtra, the scale of victory was in Maharashtra was absolutely shocking. So something is happening. The opposition had a certain perceptional advantage after the Lok Sabha election. And politics is all about perceptions. Uh, Although they lost technically, But the opposition looked like a winner. A Congress with 100 seats looked like a party that had won the national election. After these three assembly elections, the opposition as a whole has suffered serious perceptual erosion. And in many ways, the big gains of 24 have been lost in the last few months. And that is what worries me enormously.
So, do you think there is then scope for the opposition alliance? Because now that I think a lot of the fissures were anyway evident, but they've become more evident in these few months now, particularly. Do you think there is scope for the opposition alliance then to repair some of these fissures? And if there is scope, what do you think? What do you think these steps would be?
Uh, Delhi election result makes it more difficult and makes it more easy, weird in a strange way. It
Interesting.
makes it
Okay.
more difficult
Okay.
because Aam Aadmi Party, which was always at the edge of the India coalition,
Mhm.
could well be far more difficult. So to work with Aam Aadmi Party could become even more difficult now,
Mhm.
given the fact that in Punjab there is no hope of India coalition presenting itself as one cohesive whole. You know, you
Right.
can't imagine an Aam Aadmi Party Congress alliance in Punjab. It would be weird.
Mhm.
At the same time, something strange has happened, which is something unusual, which is to say, when Congress lost in Haryana, they said, look, in Jammu, someone in Kashmir, the NC won. It's the Congress which has lost Jammu and Haryana. When Maharashtra happened, they said, okay, it's Congress and NCP which lost, but JMM has done well in Jharkhand. Now that, so if in a sense, if Aam Aadmi Party had retained Delhi, there was a possibility of a certain uh, sub-coalition, a bloc emerging within the India bloc to say, Congress is a problem, others are winning their elections, are doing reasonably well. Now, with the defeat of Aam Aadmi Party, I think there is a moment for everyone to sit back and reflect and to say, okay, you lost, I also lost. All of us seem to be doing poorly. Shall we sit back? Shall we all come together, put our heads in together and think about it? So there is that moment, a moment that actually requires. So in that sense, I said, it makes it easy, imperative, possible for them to stop this one-upmanship and come together and collectively reflect about the course forward. It is possible. It's not still an impossible job. It's only, as I said, it's all about perception.
Yeah.
A couple of good elections and things would start looking very, very different. There's Bihar, and after Bihar, we have Assam, Tamil Nadu, Kerala. These are places where BJP doesn't have much strong place in Assam and Kerala, etc. So there is space for opposition if they can knock BJP out, for example, in Assam, if they can. It's going to be tough if they can, or in Bihar. Then suddenly perceptions can change in politics. So it is time. There is time for opposition, time for them to come together. But to my mind, for India coalition to work, it's not enough for them to occasionally stand up in parliament and do a walkout together.
Right.
It's not enough for them to simply announce a seat adjustment 3 weeks or 4 weeks before election in a state. No, it doesn't look like an alliance in the eyes of the people. Uh, they should offer themselves as a political alternative for this country. Not alternative politics, but political alternative. As a citizen, I want to know, okay, I don't like BJP, but who is the other alternative? What are they promising me? What do they stand for? What do they stand against? Rahul Gandhi gave a very serious and sensible speech in the Lok Sabha on the presidential address. He said an alternative address to presidential address could have the following elements: A, B, C. I would like to hear this from India Coalition. It's Rahul Gandhi speaking as leader of opposition is one thing, but India Coalition making a statement like this is altogether different. That is what I want to hear. I want to hear some overall statement, a collective understanding about what is it that they stand for. No, you don't need a manifesto at this stage, but you do need 4 or 5 points. Do they all agree about caste census, for example? What is their stand about, Adani and Ambani, for example? Some of these things, if we hear them speak in a common voice, and then not just issuing press statements about it, but actually taking to doing ground mobilization, big rallies, street action in the legitimate, democratic, peaceful way. All these things are possible. So if the opposition does that, that is when people feel, all right, there is an alternative. As yet, it's not visible.
So you spoke about perception being so important in politics. The perception right now, and I want to sort of go back to the Aam Aadmi Party. The perception now is that Aam Aadmi Party is facing an existential crisis. We also have these reports from the CSDS Lokniti survey. We have these reports in our paper, which also underline that the support that the Aam Aadmi Party has amongst the marginalized, the Dalits, women also, um, you still cannot discount that. That cannot be completely sidelined either. So, what is your view on this? Is the Aam Aadmi Party actually facing an existential crisis right now? Can it bounce back? What are the chances that it will bounce back from this?
Pooja, strictly going by the outcome, there's nothing for Aam Aadmi Party to feel existential worries about.
Okay.
A party that has had 3 victories, 2 of them such spectacular and historic victories.
Yes, yes.
For them to lose one election is not something where parties lose, they come back. That's a routine of democracy. And losing by 3.5 percentage points is not something which should invite existential anxieties. The trouble in this case, and I do feel that so many commentators and others are jumping onto the bandwagon because this is the day they've been so desperately wanting to see. And end of this, end of that, etc. All that has happened because there is, for various reasons, Aam Aadmi Party has invited friends who close their eyes and enemies who close their eyes, both. And in the end, commentated among the commentators, you have that band as well. Uh, but the reason why Aam Aadmi Party, why it may be more than a small 3.5% electoral defeat, not a drubbing in that sense for Aam Aadmi Party, is the following: because Aam Aadmi Party has focused so much on Delhi, so much on elections, and so much on Arvind Kejriwal, that the defeat in Delhi in an election and personal defeat for Arvind Kejriwal could actually trigger something much bigger than just an electoral setback. Aam Aadmi Party does not have fresh avenues. Haryana breakthrough did not happen. Gujarat, Goa, and Uttarakhand, they're unlikely to even repeat what they had, decent vote share that they had last time. They would come back down. So everything boils down to Punjab and to the 27 assembly election in Punjab. And should they not do well, that could create a serious difficulty. So I would not yet say that it faces an existential crisis. It could face an existential crisis if it loses 27 Punjab, because the party doesn't have too many workers who would be committed to the party. Over the years, party has managed to shed all those workers who stood with it on principles, on some with some commitment. And at a time when you are out of power, you need these workers. You need people who are with you for principles, who are committed, who are loyal. Aam Aadmi Party doesn't have too many. So it is not yet an existential crisis, but it could turn into one for Aam Aadmi Party. And one should not forget the fact that BJP will not sit quietly simply by defeating Aam Aadmi Party in an election. I would not be surprised if we see central agencies once again ED, CBI, other things, basically attempts to break the party. And that's what I mean by total dominance. BJP is not just about winning elections, that's about complete dominance, about eliminating the possibility of a challenge in the next few years. When that happens, can Aam Aadmi Party uh, stay the course? That's a question, but it would be premature to come to a conclusion about that question at this stage.
Right. So, I mean, of course, we've spoken so much about the opposition, we've spoken so much about AAP, and you just mentioned BJP, which is why I'm bringing this up. Um, is it at all possible that because the BJP has said that it is going to continue with the welfare schemes, etc., that the AAP government had already put in place, is there any softening? And I'm sorry if this is a poor choice of word, but is there any scope of a softening in the BJP's politics as far as Delhi is concerned?
Uh, it could mean two different things. One is BJP going soft on Aam Aadmi Party. I don't expect that. My
Yeah,
sense
you just
is
said, yeah.
uh, wherever we've seen, BJP would probably go after them and try and finish it. Remember, BJP, Aam Aadmi Party has been an irritant for Mr. Modi. वो हिंदी में कहते हैं आंख की किरकिरी. आंख में कोई छोटी सी चीज फंस जाती है and it troubles you. It's a tiny thing, but it troubles you no end. Aam Aadmi Party has been that for Mr. Modi. And he would like to get rid of it. So that I don't see that kind of softening. The other point that you made, that is of course true because Aam Aadmi Party has made it a certain template, a template of certain welfare schemes. It would be impossible for BJP to move away from some of those things, electricity or free bus ride for women, or the promise that BJP has made, which is a very Aam Aadmi Party-like promise, which is 2,500 rupees to every woman. So it would be very hard for them to step back from that. But I do expect these things to be gradually brought down. And Delhi is a revenue surplus state. So they can afford to do many of those things and yet focus more of the money on the more visible, the more elite projects. That's where we think. And one related point to that is the actual softening of Aam Aadmi Party vis-a-vis the BJP, which is what we have seen, not vis-a-vis BJP as a party, but vis-a-vis BJP's ideology.
Right.
Over the years, Aam Aadmi Party came closer and closer. And in politics, you see that when two parties are ideologically very close to each other, their personal conflict intensifies. This is DMK versus ADMK. Virtually no distinction in their ideology. But the personal conflict and animosity is of the highest order. So what we witnessed in Delhi was something similar. As Aam Aadmi Party came closer to BJP, especially on issues of Hindutva, on Hindu majoritarian politics, which Aam Aadmi Party started not only sharing, they actually started competing with BJP on who's more Hindu majoritarian than the other. Someone like Atishi saying, we want Lakshmi and Saraswati on banknotes. Aam Aadmi Party's silence during the Delhi riots. They're quietly watching bulldozers. They're competing on a Delhi Education Department issuing that circular saying identify Bangladeshis and so on. So they were actually competing with each other. That is something where I would now watch carefully and see, does Aam Aadmi Party step back from that? Does Aam Aadmi Party, is Aam Aadmi Party now willing to choose? That in some ways will determine the future of Delhi politics. As I said earlier, and as the data in the CSDS Lokniti data demonstrates, Aam Aadmi Party still remains the choice of the poor in Delhi. It's a very class divided city.
Yeah.
Something that came out in many reports in your paper as well. It's a class divided city, a party which is still the dominant choice of the poor. I mean, if Delhi's bottom half were to vote, Aam Aadmi Party would be a stunning winner. even today, if only women were to vote, Aam Aadmi Party would have swept the polls in Delhi. I mean, all these are very, very, very striking. It's almost a textbook model of how class divided and gender divided city Delhi is. And it's a proof that women think before they vote. Women simply do not vote the way men ask them to vote. There's a 10% difference between men and women's vote.
Right, yeah.
Clearly, a substantial chunk of women
Yeah.
probably not when their husbands tell them to do something, when their father asks them to do something, and then quietly go to the polling booth and do exactly what they want to do. Here is a party that still has that advantage of very strong support from the bottom of the social pyramid. A party like this could actually, you see, the surprising thing is that Aam Aadmi Party had built the kind of base that the left front had built in Bengal. And this was a base on which they could rule for 2 or 3 decades.
Right.
That it crumbled is something which needs to be understood, why it crumbled the way it did. There is something to build, but then the parallel of left front reminds you that once it crumbles, it's very hard to put it together.
That is that is quite a note to end this interview on. I think a lot of things more for you to write about, in fact, to unpack in further columns. Thank you so much for joining us again today, Yogendraji. It's been great. Thank you, viewers, and please do like and subscribe our channel. For every week, we'll have a fresh episode with Yogendraji under Deshkaal. Thank you.